In chapter 908, Oda did reveal that the Gorisei are taking orders from Imu. 3 years ago, I said in a theory that the Gorisei are not really in charge of the world government, and that theory was confirmed in chapter 908. And since that theory was confirmed, I will build upon it. You can say that this video is like a part 2. Who are the founders or the creators of the world government? The official version of the story is that the founders are the 20 kingdoms. But is that really the case? I think just like Oda did reveal that the Gorisei aren't really in charge, the same could be for the founders of the world government. I thought a lot about the concept of the world government, and the official version of the story is highly unlikely. The part that the 20 kingdoms did join forces I think is true, but the idea of the world government, it wasn't theirs. I don't think that Imu is alone, he is part of a group, and they were the ones who founded the world government. In order to write a story like One Piece, Oda has done a lot of research about how countries work now and in the past, their systems, ideology, culture, traditions, economy, military, religion, etc. The reason why I say that is because I do the same, but not to write a story, but for other reasons. There is a reason why in our history there was never a world government. In order for that to happen, a lot of extraordinary things need to happen, and even then there is a small chance for a world government to be formed. I'm not going into more details what are those extraordinary things, so we can focus on the One Piece world. What did happen in the Void Century that caused something so extraordinary to happen, like a world government? I think nothing happened. I think what caused the creation of the world government was not the present, but the future. Or should I say the future that they thought will happen? Let me explain. Professor Clover said that there was a kingdom that was very advanced and prosperous, but what their enemies feared the most about them was their ideas. Now, the key thing here is their ideas. The ancient kingdom was a kingdom like no other. They were excelling in everything. That would mean that there were people around the world that they did admire them, and also people who hated them for their success. Those who did admire the ancient kingdom, they saw them as a role model to follow, because remember, the key part here is their ideas. So the world was changing in the image of the ancient kingdom, and this was happening without them using their military to conquer other countries and imposing their system to other countries whether they want it or not. And like I said earlier, that not everyone was happy with them and what was happening, which is normal. And they saw them as a threat, and one of them who saw them as a threat was this group that Imu is part of. And they thought that if things were allowed to continue developing the way as they are, most of the countries around the world will fall under the rule of the ancient kingdom, but willingly and not by force. The ancient kingdom would be the center of the world, the capital of the world, even without announcing it. Actions speak louder than words. And because of that, they would be beyond powerful, untouchable. And those people and kingdoms who did not agree with their ideas, they feared them because they did not want to change their ways, even if those ways were bad for the people who were under their rule. So, do I think that these were the only reasons why 20 kingdoms joined together to form the world government? No, I don't. If they wanted to defeat the ancient kingdom, then all they needed to do was to create a military alliance and fight the ancient kingdom, and if they would win the war, then they would go back to their countries where they had absolute power, which they don't need to share it with anyone else. Because I think they wanted to keep the world as it is and not change to something new. But I think this is where this group that Imu is part of comes into play, and they were the ones who came up with the idea of the world government. Basically, they were twisting the ideas of the ancient kingdom to benefit a small group of people instead of everyone. But how did they convince 20 kingdoms to join forces and form a single entity? Before I answer this question, I want to say that this is one of the most important reasons why I don't think that the official version of how the world government was formed is true. Because if you really think about it, the chances of that to happen are close to zero. It's normal for a kingdom to be allies with one or two neighbors, and to have relations with a couple of other kingdoms. But it is also normal to hate each other and go to war. So how did these 20 kingdoms got together and agree to do this? How and by who was this meeting set up? Was it written in the invitation that, hey, are you interested to abandon your absolute power and your country for something different, where you will share power and live in one place with other royal families, and you are not the special one anymore? Well, we have a good news for you. If this initiative were started by one of the kings, then why would the others trust him or listen to what he has to say? And this is why I think that the initiative was started by someone else who was not part of the 20 kingdoms. This group was neutral, and that's why the 20 kingdoms did trust them. But how did they convince the 20 kingdoms? Well, I think this group used two things to convince them: future and fear. The future is scary on its own, and if someone says that terrible things will happen, then it is not that hard to be convinced. I think this group said to 20 kingdoms, you have two choices before you. Stay as you are and you will perish, because the ancient kingdom's plan is to take over the world. They are already there and you will not be part of that world, at least not the way you are now. And since the ancient kingdom was strong and advanced, they did not need too much convincing on this issue. Or, do as we say and you will not just be safe but also reach new heights that you have never imagined. But to do that you need to abandon everything. It's all or nothing. The reason why it was all or nothing for them is that even if they do manage to win the war against the ancient kingdom, they will not be truly victorious. Because the ancient kingdom's influence around the world was not because of their military force but because of their ideas. And that's why people accepted them and admired them. So how do you kill an idea? You cannot. But there are ways to erase them. If no one will hear that idea and it will not be passed down to the next generation, that's how you can win this type of war. And that's why it was necessary to erase a whole century of history and make a law that anyone who tries to learn the history of the void century will be executed. The ancient kingdom and their ideas were erased from the world, so now they can do whatever they want unchallenged and unrivaled. But they did not erase only the ancient kingdom, but also themselves. And this was very clever of them. They could have made themselves in the eyes of the world the biggest heroes that the world has ever seen. But if they were to do that, then the question in everyone's mind would be, who was that powerful enemy that they defeated to earn the title heroes? And this way they would indirectly confirm the existence of the ancient kingdom. If you want people to call you a dragon slayer, this would mean that you are confirming the existence of dragons. And by erasing themselves as well, they did secure their position. Because how can someone attack or defeat you if they don't know that you exist? There are a lot of other things that I want to talk about, but then this video would be hours long. I try to condense what I say as much as I can. So this is it for now. I will talk about these topics more in the future videos. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.